Okay, our speaker today is, her topic is the power of us supporting humanist education in Uganda. Her name is Samantha White. She's a member of the Ethical Society of St. Louis, and the Ethical Society of St. Louis has partnered with the Uganda Humanist Schools Trust, UHST, for over a decade. Samantha will provide an overview of their history of support, as well as updates on the progress and challenges at the schools during the past year. Samantha has been a member of the Ethical Society of St. Louis for 10 plus years, is a current member of the ESSL Board of Trustees, and a volunteer with the Society's fundraising efforts for the humanist schools in Uganda. Samantha is a humanist and a passionate believer in the transformational power of education, science, and reason to improve people's lives. If you got our newsletter, there is a link there where you can learn more about the Uganda Humanist Schools. So, Samantha?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Am I actually, okay, you can hear me. I haven't yet practiced with this, so do I point it at the screen?
I'm not sure.
It worked.
Yeah,
It worked perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Samantha White. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm 1/5 of the Ethical Society of St. Louis's Uganda Humanist Schools Trust fundraising team, which is a mouthful. We've existed since 2012. I have a lot of gratitude to Rachel Jones, who's the Ethical Society of St. Louis's Executive Director of Finance and Operations, and my other fellow team members, which is Chris Lacoste, Nathan Schrank, and Crystal White, for their hard work and partnership on this truly life-altering project. I especially want to recognize Crystal and Nathan for their work preparing much of the presentation I'm going to be giving today. Crystal is a former trustee of the UHST board, and she visited Uganda in 2022, where she met directly with the students, the educators, and the directors of the schools. So she's bringing her firsthand knowledge of all of those folks into the work as the lead of the fundraising team at Ethical Society of St. Louis. And then Nathan joined our group in 2024 and has made a lot of really great beneficial strides to our group. So I wanted to express my appreciation for their work and their help preparing this. Okay, so today, as Susan said, I'm going to share the history of the Ethical Society of Humanist Movements, their involvement with the Uganda programs, provide updates, and then also discuss our plans for future support. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to be here. I've never been to Mid Rivers before, so thanks for welcoming me here. Okay, you may be wondering, or maybe you already know, but why the Ethical Society of St. Louis has a 13 years running Global Ethics in Action project, which is focused on communities half a world away and in a place many of us have never been. The origin stories were planted 65 years ago. John F. Kennedy assumed the presidency in January 1961 and immediately began crafting programs to encourage young Americans to do good work in the wider world. You're probably thinking of the Peace Corps, but even before that program was the International Initiative Teachers for East Africa. TEA recruited, selected, and trained American educators for international service, and those educators moved to Kenya, to Tanzania, and to Uganda, and they provided technical assistance to the local schools. Can you all hear me? Okay. And then helped train the local teachers. One of the TEA participants was St. Louis area resident Ed Schmidt. He was a young mathematics teacher who joined and taught students and teachers in Kenya for 2 years. Okay, so we're going to fast forward 10 years, and then we'll meet Hilary Hurd, who's a young British researcher studying malaria and the mosquitoes that transmit it, and she focused her attention on the former British colony of Uganda. Hilary and her husband Steve left the UK in the early 1970s, and they moved to Uganda for her career, where they lived and taught for 3 years as well. So Ed, Hilary, and Steve had life-shaping experiences in East Africa in their young adulthoods, and they fell in love with the people of Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Individuals filled with warmth, with optimism, and joy despite extraordinarily hard lives. And these three folks, they met due to their intersection of those shared passions, East African people and education. And because of Peter Cassandra, who's the founder of Isaac Newton Secondary School, the first humanist school in Uganda. So Peter was doing the groundbreaking work of building a school formed on humanist values with science, reason, and compassion as its core, and he built the school in a very rural and impoverished area of Uganda. Steve and Hillary met and were inspired by Peter, so they formed the Uganda Humanist Schools Trust as a fundraising arm to help support the programs. And then Ed learned of Peter's efforts through his East African education connections, then met Steve and Hillary Hurd, and he brought that connection back to the St. Louis Society in 2012. So Ed, he's on the left. He was a beloved member of the St. Louis Society, and he unfortunately passed away in 2019, where he's greatly missed, but his legacy of this connection lives on and is passionately supported by our society. Okay, so in Uganda, education is a privilege, it's not a right. Free government schools educate up to primary 7 only, which is the equivalent of middle school. And additionally, the government schools are not actually available in all communities, and they're not equipped to teach all students. So it can be a challenge to get an education. Given that choice, many families instead choose to pay private school tuition for their child's education. In rural communities, the school fee expense is proportionately very large to their overall personal income, and many families will choose to only educate one child, or alternatively, they'll send multiple children to the lower levels, and then once they're able and old enough to work, they'll send them out to get a job to help support the family. Okay, so investing in women's education has shown time and time again to have a greater impact on poverty reduction. And Kate Lovelady, who was our former leader, and Ed Schmidt believed strongly, and the Ethical Society of St. Louis community agreed, that investing in females by furthering their education would make a profoundly positive difference in the lives of the girls, their families, and their communities. And so the Ethical Society of St. Louis and some Mid-Rivers members support all female learners with reusable menstrual products, and we provide boarding scholarships for girls only. In addition, it's also a deliberate choice to fund senior 1 through 6 scholarships rather than primary school education. So most Ugandan families, they have to make a difficult decision as to who will receive further education after primary school, and females often aren't the recipients. So the Ethical Society, we're very aware that continuing education opens opportunities for females and their families that they might not receive otherwise, such as discovering a career that they're passionate about, fashion design, as some students want to be, scientists, doctors, educators, etc. As well as, and maybe more importantly, the choice of when to marry, who to marry, and in particular, how many children to have, which is good for the students, it's good for their society, and it's good for humanity as well. Okay, so you might also be wondering, why have we focused on boarding scholarships? Many of the families wish to board their children rather than keep them at home. Some as young as 5 board at school. And there are many reasons why that's a decision that the families choose to make. So boarding students do not have to walk the long distances to school each day. Most families in Uganda, they don't have their own personal transportation, unlike us. So the students have to walk, and the amount of time spent traveling is a very large portion of their day. Their chore load is also notably diminished while at school, and many children, especially female children, when they're at home, they spend a significant time acquiring water, watching their siblings, or working in agriculture, which is time not spent on their academics. Additionally, because you might be aware, the walk to and from school is not guaranteed to be physically safe, especially for female students. And the girls, as they age and through their teenage years, have significant concerns about their physical safety. and they prefer to board at school where they're freer from the potential violence that might occur. Electricity is available at the schools, while most homes in rural Uganda don't have access to it. And since most daylight hours are spent at school or in transit to and from school, commuting students, they struggle to keep up with their academics like their peers who get to stay at the school. And classes in Uganda are taught in English, and the assignments are in English as well. But English is not the primary language of Uganda. And so coupling that language restriction with the limited education that most of their parents received, the parents aren't able to help them with their homework at school. So they much prefer them to be at school 24 hours a day where they can talk to their peers, talk to their teachers, and get help when they need it. And lastly, boarding students are guaranteed to be fed regular meals. Food insecurity is a significant problem for the local communities, and guaranteed meals, especially for the students receiving scholarships, it's a great reassurance for their families. So I personally feel compelled to donate to UHST because I also lived with financial insecurity as a child, and I have profound gratitude that the education I was able to acquire through scholarships set me up on a different path now. So I can relate really deeply to these female students who really wish the same for themselves and for their future and for any children they might choose to have. Okay, so in the past 13 years, the Ethical Society of St. Louis and our passionate commitment to the Uganda Humanist Schools Project, we've fundraised over $350,000. And that money has been used to provide full tuition and boarding scholarship for female students, senior 1 through senior 6. We provided menstrual products for all menstruating students at all of the Uganda Humanist Schools in the entire country. We provided anti-malarial paint and mosquito nets in the dormitories. We provided support to fund teacher salaries, books and science equipment, support to primary education, and then capital campaign improvements to the school campuses like green and water pumps, toilet locks, school halls, and dormitories. So we've spent that 13 years and the $350,000 doing a lot of good work. UHST project, it helps ethical humanists live their core values, and it reminds us that every person is important and unique, that we can learn from everyone, and that we are members of the world community. It also fully demonstrates that when we all pull together towards a common goal, we can make a profound impact in the world around us. The work we have done and continue to do really inspires me and keeps me hopeful in a world that can be quite challenging, especially right now. Okay, so that's our history. Let's talk about the transformative work that's happened in the humanist schools in Uganda through this past year. So, I think it's probably helpful to get an idea of where these schools are located. I don't know how many of you have been to Uganda. So this is a map showing the schools supported by UHST spread across Uganda. And this is, in particular, is the route of Steve Hurd's 2024 tour. So visiting all of the schools is a long journey, one that Steve and Hillary Hurd have done many, many times over their years supporting the trust. And unfortunately, in 2025, when they toured, there were 2 schools they weren't able to go to, which is, let me see if I can do this right, Kanungu in the lower left, and Katumba in the upper left, because those areas are significantly targeted with violence, and it wasn't safe for them to visit. Okay, so you've got an idea of where the schools are, how distant they are from one another. One from Kampala to Katumba, it's a 26-hour drive, and that's over relatively challenging roads to navigate. Okay, so let's talk about Isaac Newton High School. their secondary school. It's in Katera, it's near Masaka, and if you remember, it's the first humanist school in Uganda. They celebrated their 20th anniversary this year, and it makes it the longest running humanist high school in the entire world. So I don't know about you, but that brings me such joy. It's such a thrilling milestone that they've been around and successful for 20 years. As a part of their 20th anniversary celebration, Ezra Luwani, the school's head teacher, he invited 20 former students to talk about their lives since leaving the school to serve as an inspiration to the current students. So Isaac Newton Secondary School provides outstanding academic programs for its students, and it is very popular among the local community. The school's progress is a huge testament to the vision and hard work of Peter Cassandra, the school's director and founder. And as an aside, an important one, Peter is currently undergoing treatment for bowel cancer, and it's a significant worry for him, for his family, for the schools, for us here in St. Louis, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Due to Isaac Newton Secondary School's academic successes, there's immense interest in the school, which means an increasing student population. To alleviate overcrowding, they were fortunately in this past year able to build a third boys' dormitory and a small spillover girls' dormitory using locally raised funds. So I don't know if you all, this wasn't funds from us. This was the local community investing in this school because they see the day-to-day impacts in their families and their community, and they wanted to be a part of it, which is great. In addition, a study room was built to facilitate individual reading, coursework, and group problem-solving activities, which are all integral requirements of the new Uganda National Curriculum, which emphasizes competencies as much as knowledge. So Isaac Newton Secondary School made great strides this year, and the Ethical Society is grateful to have been supporting them for 13 of their 20 years. And from its humble beginnings, which was a single building in 2005, with just a few teachers trying to provide basic education based on science and reason, to a group of local orphans in a community decimated by HIV and AIDS, to the current iteration with over 1,000 students and national ranking. Isaac Newton Secondary School is a true testament of the power and lasting impact of a humanist education. Okay, so Isaac Newton expanded to include a primary education when a neighboring evangelical Christian church closed during COVID, and the local community asked Peter Cassandra to purchase the school facilities. The primary school has also made a lot of progress in the past year, and the school administration continues to incorporate important traditions for their students now that the individuals can start school at age 3 and they're little babies and continue through to secondary school graduation. The original primary school buildings were poorly constructed, and the district surveyor required improvements. So this past year, fortunately, there were 3 generous sets of UHST supporters, including an Ethical Society of St. Louis family, and they rose to the challenge and provided the funds to build 3 infant classrooms, 4 junior classrooms, and a new hall for examinations and other school functions. So the school plays an important role in the local community, and not just for the students. As an example, the National Identification and Registration Authority camped at Isaac Newton Primary School to register pupils and community members to receive and renew their national identity cards. So the government equivalently recognized the hard work and the connection that this school brings to the community and utilized the resources that they have to provide an impact for everyone around them. Okay, so UHST provided significant help to the Kasese Humanist Schools, which is near the Uganda border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, as soon as they registered for a not-for-profit organization and agreed to annual audits of their accounts. The Kisesi Humanist Schools consist of a high school and 3 primary schools. And on the main Rukaki site of the school, the UHST funded improvements to their science lab, to their library, and to the school dormitories. This is one of the Kisesi schools. So earlier during this year, the very rundown Kahendrio Primary School at the fishing village of Lake George was transformed with a complete makeover. The outer walls that were demolished by elephants during COVID have been rebuilt. All the classrooms now have concrete floors. They're plastered and painted walls, and they're much needed additional furniture. The concrete floors and the painted walls really help stop the spread of malaria mosquitoes. UHST's attention has actually now turned to another Kisesi school in the Muhakia school area. In the latter half of 2024, UHST supporters raised funds through the 2028 Sustainability Appeal, which I will discuss more in detail later, to bring mains electricity to the school and to refurbish the entire site. I'm pleased to report that the school is now connected to electricity. They have as well as a small adjoining orphanage, and they're undergoing that major refurbishing. The buildings have security lights at night and power sockets to facilitate the use of computers, printers, and AV equipment, which is a significant benefit to all of their learners. Their earth floors have been concreted, and again, the walls plastered and painted to reduce the hiding places for mosquitoes. And they also had extra money to provide more furniture. Katumba, which was an area that wasn't safe to visit, is because of the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, and it's where the Katumba Parents Humanist Primary School was formed in community response to the 2016 insurrection and death of 100 young men in the area. The children of those fallen attend the school for free. Katumba's settlements cling to the steep slopes of the foothills of the local mountains, and torrential rains made worse by climate change and deforestation bring landslides and floods. The Katumba community is desperately poor, and the school, which actually has a remarkable reputation and substantial local commitment of investment and their commitment, it offers a lifeline to the children. This year, UHST supporters funded the construction of a small dormitory at Katumba where the primary 7 girls will stay in the year before they take their primary leaving exam and hopefully move on to senior 1. Once the boys' dormitory construction has been completed, the essential infrastructure of this school will be finished, which would be great for everyone in the area. So not so great news is that in the recent rains, guttering was ripped off the Katumba nursery block, as were the doors of the school hall. There was further damage to the nearly completed girls' dormitory, and the school needs help to fix these damages, but UHST doesn't have sufficient funds to help. Despite the weather damage and the lack of current funds to fix them, the administrators at the school have still found ways to celebrate their positives. And for instance, in April, the managing director of the school sent this message, which I will paraphrase, although the full text, I missed one. There's another picture of the primary school. So the full text is on the screen, but I'm gonna paraphrase it for you. Dear St. Louis Ethical Society, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for your continuous support of the reusable sanitary pads for girls at the nursery and primary schools. Your generosity has made a significant impact on the lives of our students, promoting their health, confidence, and education. Your help has reduced absenteeism, improved hygiene, and empowered the girls to take control of their health, their education, and their futures. I appreciate your commitment to promoting girls' education and well-being. Here's a picture of the girls. It is heartwarming to know that our commitment to fully fund reusable menstrual supplies for menstruating students at all of the schools in the Uganda Humanist Schools Network really does make a significant and visible impact in the lives of the students and their ability to receive a quality education. Robert Magara is the founder and director of the Uganda Humanist Primary School in southwest Uganda. The origin story of the school is heartbreaking. An evangelical preacher poisoned 800 local families who had joined his congregation. Then he locked them in his church and he burned them to death. Magara's motivation for setting up his school was to help his community overcome the wounds from this atrocity. Even so, the school has faced opposition from the local evangelical Christian churches, and in fact, the main local church urged its congregation to boycott the new humanist schools. The core values of I can learn from everyone and I am free to choose what I believe really resonate here because the Kananga school welcomes children from all faith backgrounds and educates them in a secular environment. Over time, UHST has helped Magara with funds to build classrooms, provide access to power, water, and toilets, have books and learning materials, and they've supplied food and firewood for the cooking. This year, UHST helped fund the Kananga School Hall, which was recently finished, and this completes the essential infrastructures of the school and enables national primary leaving exams to be held within the school so that the students don't have to make the long journey to a regional center to take their examinations. And in addition, much like here, the hall will be used for other school activities and community experiences. Eagles View Humanist Primary School is in Kahara, near the northern shores of Lake Victoria, and is run by a full-time and a part-time teacher. The classrooms are crude structures made from corrugated iron, and they become very hot during the daytime when the sun beats down, and then rains enter through the open sides and disrupt lessons as well, which, as you can imagine, rain beating down on corrugated iron is rather loud, so sometimes the lessons halt altogether. In the 3 to 4 years since the classrooms were built, termites have eaten away at the base of the support poles, which means not in the heavy rains, some of those classrooms are in danger of collapse. Despite these hardships, the teachers and the students show up every day to continue their education and further their futures. Using funds provided by the generous donors, permanent structures are being gradually added to Eagles View. The school has a decent admin block with staff rooms, as well as a well-built girls' dormitory. And over the past year, UHST supporters have provided funds to build the school a fine new smoke-free kitchen, and the new stoves have reduced firewood consumption and the cost of firewood, obviously, by at least 2/3. UHST funds have also paid for the addition of a girls' toilet block this year, and a boys' toilet block is in progress. The greatest need for this school is permanent, well-built classroom buildings, but the cost it may be too much for the UHST's capacity for fundraising. Which brings me to my next point. So last year, UHST switched some of their efforts to focus on raising funds for building infrastructure and making repairs at the school they support, rather than mainly focusing on scholarships. The 2028 Sustainability Appeal effort includes a multi-year plan with a prioritized list of projects at various schools that will be conducted in 2 phases. Launched in November 2024, UHST has already made strong progress during the past year thanks to the generosity of donors, including those from the Ethical Society of St. Louis. Over 87,000 pounds, which is approximately $116,000 US, was raised to fund the following phase 1 projects. So a school hall for examinations and other functions at Kananga Primary School, a school hall and integrated staff rooms at Isaac Newton Primary School, constructing Blair toilets at 3 schools, grading and resurfacing the sports field at Isaac Newton High School, various projects at the Kasese Humanist Schools, including refurbishing the 3 primary schools, connecting one of the primary schools to renewable hydroelectric power, enlarging and furnishing dormitories, science lab, and a library at Kasese Municipal High School. Phase 1 also helped build girls and boys primary 7 dormitories at Katoomba Primary School and paid the fees to enable Katoomba's director to gain postgraduate diploma in education. And finally, Phase 1 purchased books, science, and other learning materials for all of the schools. So Phase 1 clearly made a significant impact and was a great success. I skipped a step. But let's talk about Phase 2. Did you actually see Phase 1? Did I just skip right past it?
You were just a slide ahead.
Okay, sorry. I don't actually look at the slides, which doesn't help. So the Phase 2 target is to raise 35,000 pounds, which is approximately 47,000 US dollars, in order to fund these particular projects, which is completing the essential infrastructure at Isaac Newton Primary School, which was the school that was purchased from Evangelical Christian School that closed. And the primary school needs new kitchen and cooking stoves. They need additional toilets, rainwater harvesting and storage, and repairs to old buildings to make them safe and refurbished, as well as exam desks and chairs. They'd also like to make necessary small-scale improvements across various schools and build 4 permanent classrooms for primary 4 to 7 children at Eagles View. So right now, 18,200 pounds has been raised for Phase 2, so there's clearly still a great need for donations. Okay, now we're gonna do the mustard seed update, which is, I'm happy to be standing here recapping all of these amazing developments in the humanist schools over the past year. But in the interest of full disclosure, I have the unfortunate responsibility to share other developments with you too. Within the past 3 months, the Uganda Humanist Schools Trust has dissolved its relationship with Mustard Seed primary and secondary schools and will no longer support the schools or their director, Moses Kanya. A successful financial partnership relies on honesty, trust, transparency, accountability, commonly agreed upon goals, and responsible fiscal management. Kamya and the UHST trustees have negotiated back and forth over the past 10 years about Kamya's management of school finances. Those conversations have increased in intensity over the past 3 years as UHST has markedly decreased confidence that the donated funds were being well spent and to their intended purpose of educating needy students. In 2024, Kamya ran for political office, and his school responsibilities took lesser priority, which meant that teachers were not paid, meals were not provided, and the students suffered. UHST tried to right the situation by putting an interim school director in place, which had short-term gains and restored UHST's trust in the school enough to offer financial support in the 2025 school year. He returned to his post as school director in 2025, and unfortunately the allegations of fiscal mismanagement began again. UHST's confidence and trust in him has significantly degraded, and as a result, they parted ways with Mustard Seed under its current leadership. The Ethical Society has a long history with Mustard Seed. We've been funding scholarships at its secondary schools since the beginning. But we have deliberately decreased the number of scholarships at the school over the past 3 years due to these concerns. And in 2024, we sponsored 15 learners. In 2025, we sponsored 7. And we will have 0 this upcoming year. So for the upcoming year, the Ethical Society is hopeful that all of our Mustard Seed Scholarship recipients will transfer to Isaac Newton Secondary School as our first choice, or Kasese Municipal High School as a second. And UHST is working with the school leaders to make that happen. We, in fact, just this week committed to 1 student moving to Kasese, which was really exciting. However, I cannot guarantee that our other 6 students will make their way to either school, especially Isaac Newton, as the schools are not physically close, about 5.5 hours apart by car, and I anticipate that transportation will be a significant hurdle for the families. Additionally, we are reliant upon Kamya to convey all of this information with the learners, and I do not know if the information will be conveyed completely and accurately to the families. So we are incredibly sad to sever the Ethical Society connection to Mustard Seed, and yet feel it is the right and responsible thing to do based upon the facts at hand. I have more unfortunate news, which is that Steve and Hillary Hurd have decided to phase out the existence of the Uganda Humanist Schools Trust. Spearheading this nonprofit, actively fundraising year-round, working in continued partnership and communication with the school, and verifying that the funds are spent appropriately from a distance of 6,000 miles away. All of this is a substantial amount of work for aging individuals. The trustees are hopeful that some younger individuals will step up and continue this trust, but they're not optimistic that that will actually occur. As a result, they've crafted this phase out plan. So UHST will assist the Uganda Humanist Schools to create their own scholarship funding pathways, and that work has actually already been completed, and individuals can donate directly to the schools. The trust will continue to assist current scholarship students and donors, and will be the go-between of funds until the existing scholars graduate from Senior 4. The trust will not take on the administration of new scholarships. UHST has agreed to continue coordinating the AfroPad count, order, and distribution for the near future. The Ethical Society is the major donor funder of this effort, and we are grateful that UHST has agreed to continue coordinating the project through 2028. Salud. The trust is currently focused on ending their nonprofit by making the largest capital campaign impact that they can, which is the 2028 Sustainability Appeal, which I described earlier, and it focuses on funding the essential school infrastructure needed so that the schools can be successful long-term on their own without yearly support. And unless someone else steps in, the trust will dissolve in 2028. It is incredibly difficult to run a school in Uganda, and it is incredibly difficult to monitor and assist that school from afar in Great Britain or the United States. We are incredibly grateful to Steve and Hillary Hurd and the other members of the UHST board for their many years of service conducting this challenging and time-intensive work. So, you may be wondering, what does this mean for the schools and scholars our ethical humanist communities have supported for so long? It seems like the appropriate next question. The Ethical Society of St. Louis will continue its passionate commitment to funding and educating girls in Uganda, and we invite Mid-Rivers to join us. We will provide a year's supply of AfroPads for every menstruating student in the schools in the entire network, and because this is an investment in the learner's dignity and helps keep the girls learning in the classrooms where they belong, which is greatly appreciated, as you heard earlier. We have 29 students currently at Isaac Newton Secondary School and 7 at Mustard Seed. The Ethical Society will offer scholarships to any learners who choose to return to school at Isaac Newton or Kasese Municipal High School, and we will continue to fund their education through Senior 6. What does Senior 6 mean exactly? Most donors commit to a student for 4 years, which is Senior 1 through Senior 4, and at that point, the learner takes her O-level exams and graduates the school. The Ethical Society has taken this one step further, and we fund scholarships for 6 years, Senior 1 through Senior 6. This allows our scholars to take specialized pre-university coursework, and then they take their A-level exams. The A-level scores position our girls really strongly for university scholarship consideration and for success at the next level of learning. 7 girls just finished their Senior 4 O-levels, which means they graduated high school. Any of those learners who wish to return for their A-level studies will have funding provided by us. And 7 scholars just completed their Senior 5 year and will continue their A-level studies in 2026, and we will fund their schooling next year and pay for their A-level exam fees. The other 22 learners will be supported by us through Senior 6 if they choose, which for 12 girls is a 5-year commitment the Ethical Society is making. UHST will administer the funds through 2028, and then the Ethical Society will pay the schools directly through their scholarship program after that point for any of our existing scholar students. We will not take on new Senior 1 students for the upcoming school year. Frankly, the Ethical Society UHST fundraising team is uncertain what will happen in these next few years, and we don't feel comfortable making a commitment, a 6-year commitment, with that uncertainty. Any excess funds this year will be directed to UHST to distribute to their greatest need, which most likely will go to the capital infrastructure improvements mentioned in the 2028 Sustainability Appeal. UHST and the Ethical Society's UHST team have the co-responsibility of ensuring that contributions are being spent to their intended purposes, that we are mindful and careful stewards of donations. People place their trust in us to make good decisions. We take that responsibility very seriously, which I've hopefully demonstrated here today. A year's supply of menstrual products for a single learner is only $5. A single full year long tuition and boarding scholarship to Isaac Newton Secondary School is $650. Isaac Newton is now the premier school in Masaka and is charging a competitive market rate for its quality education. This increased tuition rate is worthy of celebration because it shows the strength of the school and how much the community values the education it offers. But it is a higher cost, which multiplied by our 36 learners, and adding in the AfroPads means the Ethical Society needs to raise at least $30,000 this year to meet our existing commitments. We would welcome your help to do it. Please consider giving generously if you are able. You can write checks to the Ethical Society of St. Louis, noting UHST in the memo line. You can, if you happen to have your checkbook, you can give them to me today, or you can mail them to the Ethical Society of St. Louis. Our address is on our website, or you can ask me after this for it. If you are comfortable, you can give me cash today. Along with the cash, I will ask for your name and contact information and make sure that Rachel Jones, the Ethical Society of St. Louis's Executive Director of Finance and Operation, provides a tax receipt. There's also online donation options through credit card, Venmo, Apple Pay, or Google Pay, which you can use the QR code on the screen to access those donation pathways, but there is a 2.5% processing fee, which reflects the cost that those companies charge. If you donate via check or cash, you avoid those fees. The Ethical Society will consolidate and send all of the contributions to UHST in mid-January to align with the start of the Uganda school year. So contributing today or in the next week will make the most impact. Any donations received after we transfer the funds to UHST will be held in reserve and used as a part of next year's fundraiser. Teaching and living in East Africa changed the lives of Ed Schmidt and Steve and Hillary Hurd, and it set all three on a trajectory of continuously giving back that lasted decades. For the past 13 years, Ethical Society members have all been united in a common aim to educate and uplift the incredible people of Uganda, to live our humanist values across the globe, and to demonstrate the full power of us working together as a community. Receiving a scholarship is a gift of agency, of choice, of dignity, and of opportunity. On behalf of the 36 scholarship recipients, the 1,700 menstruating students, and the 9 humanist schools that will help this year, please accept my profound gratitude and thanks. And thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate the invitation to be here.